The CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Glen Alexander.
Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour Podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Glen Alexander. And on tonight's episode of the podcast, I had to bring in the one, the only, the Brian Shrull himself to recap Bedlam, talk about that amazing Oklahoma State win over the, I think you call it Sooners. Is that how you say it? Is that familiar enough of a term? I don't know. We've only played them 110. They'll let you know we played 110 plus times. That's the one thing you'll know for sure. So we played them a lot.
Yeah, they're not shy, and I think even more now. They're gonna make sure they say that career record more often than what happened in the final Bedlam installation. That I still honestly don't believe that it happened. Like I was in Stillwater. Like I know it happened, but it still like doesn't feel real. Just kind of like this season turnaround that they've had this year.
Yeah, last time we talked, it was a very different deal. It was Oklahoma State's 2-2. Sky is falling. Is Gundy going to make it through the season? I think he will. You know, what can they do about his contract? You know, that type of deal. And now we're sitting here going, we're 15th in the college football playoff poll. We are seemingly on the up and up. And if I'm looking at our schedule going forward, we may not be favored in every single game. In fact, I think we're favored by like one against UCF, who's yet to win a game in the Big 12, if I have that right. But regardless of that, I think this is kind of like weirdly, let's look to the future. We could be back in the Big 12 championship and not have even thought that was a possibility at all this year.
It's very funny. My feelings and expectations for this season have completely changed. And after those two losses, I did not think I would ever even be thinking about a bowl appearance, let alone being ranked at all. So yeah, it was a big win for multiple reasons. Obviously, last Bedlam win, Oklahoma State somehow managed to cover their season win total over. They are not only bowl eligible, they have a chance to go play like Alum Bowl or like Big 12 championship and go to like a Cotton Bowl or something. I mean, it is crazy. And I sit here now looking at the college football rankings thinking they could be higher. Like they might be better than like Missouri and Tennessee. Like it just does not make sense. This turnaround that this team has made.
Well, I think for me, when you lose to South Alabama at home and you only score 7 points, the sky falling deal seems possible. Like it seems like, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, maybe this is just not going to work out for us and Gundy. We should just both go our separate ways. You've been a legend in Stillwater for so long. It's been nice knowing you. But I also think, well, wait, what happened? Because I think there's two sides to this. There's the side of, hey, what if one of these three quarterbacks just really didn't stand out in camp? And we're going to rotate in the running backs too, because maybe, who knows, maybe Gordon didn't stand out this much in camp too. I mean, go figure, without dependable quarterback play, or just whatever reason, he hit his stride certain part of the season and we didn't see it coming because this is his first full year playing college football. But there's the other side of it too, where it's like, if we had just started Alan Bowman and Ollie Gordon from the beginning, would we be undefeated? And I don't necessarily want to live in that whole like undefeated scenario because there's not like the past is the past, like we can move on. But also that short-sighted stuff. Like we just beat OU. We don't do that every year. Gundy is now, I believe, 5-15 all time against OU, not including when he was a quarterback, which I think then he was 0-4, if I have that right. And so this is a deal where it's, okay, we're in unprecedented territory for Oklahoma State football as opposed to normal seasons. Like we beat OU, we still have games left to play. We can do better. How can we do better? But the big question is like, what's the ceiling for this team? What's the best you think we can do?
Yeah, so 2 parts. I'll get to the ceiling I think if you had told me preseason, you're going to lose to USA, South Alabama, and Iowa State, but you're going to win every other game. You're going to win Bedlam and be playing 3 newcomers with a chance to go to the Big 12 championship. I think I would take that versus if you had said, okay, you're going to be undefeated going into Bedlam, but then you're going to get whooped. And like, then you're not going to be able to have a chance to play Big 12 championship. You might lose like another game or something. Like, I think I would take this scenario. Just know, like, if losing those games got us to where we are now, like, I think I'm okay with that. And the ceiling is, I mean, like, Texas is beatable, I think. If Quinn Ewers doesn't come back, I think Texas is beatable. I don't really see like many trip ups till then. Like, unless you get injuries and stuff, you go to UCF, you're a 2-point favorite there. They're not very good. You should beat them. Houston, they're not very good. You should win at home or win at Houston. And then you get BYU, which if it was a night game in Provo, I would be scared out of my mind. But it's a game in Stillwater, and so I think we'll be fine. So at that point, why not, battle of the orange teams in Dallas at Jerry World? And I don't think, you're not going to get a playoff berth no matter what you do, just because a South Alabama loss, you don't deserve it. But a Cotton Bowl is very realistic now.
Which is bizarre to say, but I agree. I don't know why Alan Bowman looks so much better now than he did earlier on in the season, and I'm hoping it's not just like continuity with the receivers, because it's also been a bunch of different receivers too. Like, a bunch of our receivers who are the starting guys who would be the guys on the team are out. And like Leon Johnson III, all due respect, I don't think he was starting before the injuries happened. I don't think he got really a lot of play. And Ollie Gordon, clearly, like, Heisman talk is amazing, but we are having receivers step up across the board that are just playing a lot better. Rashad Owens, like, I didn't know that guy's name before the season started. I knew Shredden and Bray, and that was it, really. And then I was hopeful that Ollie would get a bunch of touches, that Elijah Collins, the transfer, get a lot of touches, and then Jaden Nixon would also get a lot of touches. But it's all of a sudden just basically become the Alan Bowman and Ollie Gordon show, and really it's just the Ollie Gordon show that is supplemented by Alan Bowman in the passing game, because OU was stacking the box. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to really run it against 4- and 5-star caliber defensive players over and over and over? No, you're definitely going to air it out. It also helps that our defense played incredibly well against OU and held them to 24 points and got turnovers. But man, this is such a stark difference. This is part of the reason why I want to have you on the podcast, because I was like, man, the last time we talked about this, it was just in such a different light. We were not talking about, oh, well, what a fun season. We were kind of like, hey, and where's basketball? And I got to say, I'm not checking in on basketball after Monday night, so we can stay away. But what do you think, football-wise, like, could you have seen this coming? Was this any bit like, maybe there's a 1% chance they figure it out when we were 4 games in and 2-2?
No. I had hoped that Gundy would just pick a quarterback and stick to him. But, either Gundy just was so stuck in his ways of he was going to play all 3 quarterbacks, all 3 first 3 non-conference games, or neither guy really stood out. And I lean towards neither guy was really standing out, because neither guy was really standing out in the games. And so I didn't have any confidence that any of the 3 guys were going to, when they got a starting job, take care of business. But man, Bowman actually looked like he could lead this team to a New Year's Six bowl on Saturday, because you were right. OU was shutting down that box. They did not want Ollie to beat him. He still had 137 yards, which is just nuts, and 2 touchdowns. But Bowman, give him credit. Like, he managed the game well. I think Casey Dunn was actually a little creative. He did some different things that they weren't doing at the beginning of the year. So I give him credit of just coming up with a good game plan. And then It was the Rashad Owens and Brandon Presley game. I mean, at the beginning of the year, probably part of the problem was like Bowman couldn't get guys to stop dropping the ball. Like Jaden Bray or like the amount of drops, I would love to go back and count how many drops Bowman had, because I feel like a couple of those games just started with like 3 and outs because guys were just dropping the ball left and right. And so here you get 2 guys, Rashad Owens, I don't know if I knew his name at the beginning of the year, and Brandon Presley, I knew like this guy could be something. And they're being it. They're being reliable when needed. Bowman is getting the ball when they need him, and then Casey Dunn is dialing up unique plays like Bowman rushing up the middle for the touchdown. That was shocking.
Yeah, the other thing too is that not only has our offense gotten better from the play calling aspect, but like you said, the drops are just so much different. Like we have some type of rhythm. I mean, I remember watching the Iowa State game, basically tearing my hair out going, how are these guys not on the same page? You had all offseason training camp. But then again, if I'm trying to think about it a little bit more now, in retrospect, of course, being where we, 6-2, it's like, okay, hang on a second, we're doing a lot better. But why? How? And it's just maybe these guys now have had more times to get reps together. And it's as simple as that. You have a transfer quarterback come in the offseason who doesn't know any of these guys, doesn't know their timing, and all of a sudden it's just way better. I think about the easiest comparison I have here is like Justin Herbert has been throwing the ball to Keenan Allen millions of times over the past couple of seasons. But on Monday night, he almost throws it over Keenan Allen because, all due respect, Keenan Allen's not young anymore. Like, he doesn't run a 4.5. He probably runs a 4.8 now. And that's guys 10,000 yards catching. Like, that is not knocking him. That's just saying you almost have to redo the timing with a guy. And it can even be a guy who you've been playing football with for the past 3 years, and Herbert and Allen. And all of a sudden go, wait a second, hang on, I need to redo the timing here. And expecting Bowman to have that down, probably a lot to expect there, just because at Michigan, it's not like he was starting, so he didn't have, basically game time actually playing football. And maybe there's, at the end of the day, I deserve to give more credit to really just the offensive staff on figuring out a better place to run. Because the first 3 games, it was just, man, none of these plays really seem like we're catching stride with anything. Like, none of it's working. I know we're rotating a bunch of stuff then, but you'd figure, for example, South Alabama game, I think Ollie Gordon had 3 carries. Like, you'd figure, okay, hang on. In camp, and in practice, you would see maybe he should always at least have 10, of all guys on the team. He should always be carrying it 10 times. But now you fast forward, hey, he's healthy. Knock on wood, he stays healthy the rest of the season. It's kind of a benefit that maybe he only had 3 carries, if I'm trying to be really positive about it, which I am.
Yeah. And maybe Gundy, in retrospect, was correct in using those 3 non-conference games as just kind of preseason, figuring it out. Because even if that is preseason, there's a chance every year you can lose in Ames. Like, it's just something about playing there. Like, you could be halfway through your season playing great and you go to Ames and maybe you lose just because it's tough. Like, Oklahoma State did not look good in that game, and so they deserve to lose that game coming off of the South Alabama loss too. But maybe some of these guys just needed time to gel, and with all of the transfers and just kind of moving parts, maybe they just needed some games to figure out who they needed to play and who they don't. I've been trying to figure out what was happening at the beginning of the year versus what's happening now, because it just does not make sense how they've gone on this stretch of Kansas State at home win, Kansas at home win, a Bedlam home win at West Virginia. Like, that should easily be a game that they lose and they win that game. It just doesn't. All the pieces are coming together. They're using Ollie Gordon, and he is fantastic. The offensive line is blocking well. Receivers are catching it, and the defense is playing well when they need to. They're being opportunistic. That was, I think, a big part of the Bedlam game was OU kind of beat itself with some of the turnovers, but OSU also caused some of the problems, and then they were able to capitalize scoring off of turnovers or at least creating long drives, field position stuff. They seem like they are a lot more complete than they were earlier in the year.
Yeah, well, I want to get to the Bedlam game and kind of break that down a little bit more on how you hurt themselves, talk about Stoops stepping out of bounds. But first, I got to tell you, the one team that's teams is the other Orange. So us to go 2 main here, not this weekend, and go up there, which is to KU, so they're probably not all the OU beat, Iowa State, but still, we know that's not an easy place to go. And we're 7-2 right now, at 6-2. So you think Texas maybe slips up against Iowa State? Give it at least a 50 shot at this point, right?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. The game against K-State was very interesting just because they kind of got out to a big lead and then K-State made adjustments, which they've done in the past, and stormed back and took it to overtime and had a chance, and Texas was able to pull it away. I think that offense is just completely different without Quinn Ewers. Malik Murphy, I think he can be a playmaker, but I mean, he's coming in without having first team reps like most of the season. And everyone's calling for Arch Manning, but he's still young. Like it's not like he's had a lot of practice with the first team guys either. So really, I mean, they are vulnerable right now. And boy, wouldn't that shake up the Big 12 if they lost to Iowa State? And then it's like, okay, well, so Oklahoma State's now the front runner to make the Big 12 championship, and who's going to join them? Because we still got a couple games left. That would definitely shake up the conference, and it'd be very interesting because I think Texas, if they can win out and then win the Big 12 championship, they could reasonably still be in the playoff at this point, but they could very easily derail their whole season if Murphy or Arch or whoever, just can't kind of put it all together.
Yeah, it looks like here, just looking through the standings, I don't know how the tiebreakers work exactly, but I think it's overall record. So I think I was to be 5-4 overall. They're 4-2 in conference, bizarrely enough, but they're 5-4 overall. I don't think if I beat Texas, for example, in 2 weeks, they'll still their step match against us and Big 12 championship. I think they would go to, was it KU? Was it OU? Basically, because each of those are tied 7-2 conference. So you're right, shake it up a ton. It's very interesting to see how that all would work out. I personally don't want to do it again. I'm good on it. We won the last Bedlam. That's all it is. Don't need to do it again. We've proved ourselves. I think a rematch is doing maybe a ton of favors just because going to the Bedlam game here and talking about it, OU did not play their best football. I don't think they played their best football. I don't think Levy and the offensive coordinators think offensive staff thinks they did a great job. Gabriel threw for 344 yards. Bowman also threw for 334 yards. The main guy threw an interception and lost 2 fumbles. We had one player throwing an interception, Ollie Gordon. So, we just didn't beat ourselves. We just, weirdly enough, in Bedlam, go figure, we had less total yards by 12. We had less passing yards. We had less rushing yards, less average yards per play. First downs, we were 5-15 on third and fourth. We ran a bunch more plays than they did. And at the end of the day, we had half the penalties OU did, and we won the game basically by possession. I mean, OU had the ball for 22.5 minutes. We had the game. It's mainly a fluke. It's OU having 8 penalties, OU having 8 or 3 yards, right? overall. Like OU is not a team that I remember beating themselves. They always have like a Heisman Trophy winner quarterback who generally those guys don't throw interceptions, don't fumble the ball. But Dylan Gabriel did both this past weekend, which we're thankful for because if that doesn't happen, maybe we probably don't win. I mean, right? Like, as much as I would love to say, hey, you know what, OU, sorry, you got the bad call this year. We got the call this year. You lost. That's just how it worked. But no, it's just you beat yourselves. The turnover margin alone. You know, OSU is +2 in the turnover margin. That wins the game.
Yeah, I think there's several aspects to this game. I think on the one hand, Oklahoma State came up with a good game plan. They scored first, and then OU responded, but then they got an pretty early 14-7 lead and were able to hang on to it. And that second score was after a fumble, the first fumble from OU. They got another field goal to put it up 17-7, then gave up a touchdown. And then, of course, they fumbled it. But OU, I mean, early on, just were beating themselves with that early fumble, and then they missed the field goal after the Pokes turned it over. And then nothing really happened until the second half. And the only time OSU even led in this or trailed in this game was early third quarter, 21-17. And that stayed, for a while. But even then, like it just felt like OSU was still kind of in control. Like you're down 4, but it still felt like there was a chance. And then OU just kind of kicked themselves in the foot again, kept on messing up. OSU got the lead back. And I mean, as nervous as I was, like it just kind of felt like this is the time. This is OSU's time to take this game. And I will say, I think that non-PI at the end of the game is one of the worst calls I've seen. Like that is atrocious. I don't know how, especially after reviewing, how do you not call that a pass interference? I'm with Sooner fans on that. Like that 100% should be a pass interference. But you can go back to several calls throughout the game that could go one way or another. Also, if you don't want to put yourself in that position, don't miss a field goal in the first half. Don't fumble the ball on the snap twice. That gives OSU perfect field position or gives them the ball back. Like there's so many plays in a game and so many different kind of deciding moments that it's hard to point to one. And yeah, it was like the end of the game. The game is completely different if that's called a pass interference. So I like it. It goes both ways with that. I think OSU put themselves in positions to win this game and let OU beat them. And usually it's the other way around. Usually it's OSU kind of beating themselves and OU just being opportunistic and just kind of being the right team at the right time, being in the right spot and taking advantage. And I don't know really who the credit should go to, but I think Gundy has changed a lot of things in the past couple of months with this team and really gotten them in a good spot. And the coordinators, I mean, I don't know how I feel about Casey Dunn because I thought he should have been fired earlier this season, and I think he did a really good job against the Sooners. And I mean, Ollie Gordon should be going to New York for a Heisman finalist, maybe winning. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation of who are the guys that, deserve it. And you got quarterbacks left and right kind of just crumbling. Like all these SEC guys, I don't know if many of them really deserve it. It's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure who would end up who I would take over Ollie Gordon right now. I mean, I'm sure there's the Michael Penix, and then there's the what's his name? Bo, Oregon. Yeah, Bo Nix. And I'm sure Bo a ton of hype, but no one's playing as good in that case that he does. And I know I'm seeing these through orange-colored glasses too. I do want to go back though to talk about like this tubes. In my mind, there's the possibility that he stepped out eligible receiver, but also F wouldn't be. They're making split second. They should have thrown the flag. Like when in doubt, you throw the flag. But then I'd also like to do a myriad of different Bedlam plays that either are in the game where, basically as the game starts, like Mayfield throws this pass, it's caught, and all of a sudden drops the ball, but has it somehow ruled in a complete pass. If that was from 2017 or 2016. 2013, Justin Gilbert intercepted the ball. I was there, saw him hold on to it. Then for some reason it was also ruled incomplete that he didn't come to the ball in 2013 too. So like the calls go both ways. If you want to leave it up to breath and you want to blame them, that's exactly what position you're in. Then maybe just play better. I mean, that's the thing is like any OS 13, look at the 2016, I want to actually say, because I won the Heisman 2017. And those leave in the hands of the refs. If you better, you don't have to leave in the hands of the refs to win the game. If you miss a field goal and you lose by 3, can't really be blaming the refs all that much. So
yeah, this OU team is not definitely the same that it has been in years past. Like Dylan Gabriel is not Kyler Murray. He's not a Heisman contender. I don't think they have a Hollywood Brown on this team. Like I think OU is a good team, and they got up to play Texas, which was a really physical game, and either team could have won that, but OU wins it. And they come to Stillwater, and OSU was just ready to play, and it showed early. And sure, I mean there are several things OSU could have done better. The Pokes made plenty of mistakes, but like just if you watch the game, I mean, as unbiased as you can, like I think OSU deserved to win it. Just kind of if you put the whole thing in a pick, like I think the Pokes deserve to win that game, which doesn't always happen in college football. A lot of times, just because of how luck and fluky and things are, like teams kind of pull out wins when they shouldn't, they don't deserve it. But I think in this case, they played better.
That West Virginia Houston game is one that comes to mind when you talk about a team necessarily shouldn't have won it. Like that, that's just one of those. You've got to be kidding me. Oklahoma State, Central Michigan. You've got to be freaking kidding me. Gundy talks still to this day how we actually finished the season like 11-2 because I think we lost the bowl game and we lost OU, but the other Central Michigan doesn't count. It's not like we only had 2 wins on the season. And we can keep going back through and talking about different stuff. The one other thing that when I talk about OU had more yards than us, it's not by a lot, right? Like the total yards in the game, Oklahoma State still had 400 plus yards. I think 450 plus. OU has more yards than OSU by like 15 overall or 20 in the entire game. And when you have time possession where you're winning time possession by 15 minutes, you should win the game. Like you just should. And that's what happened. That's just exactly what happened. Like we're winning by a lot and kept going and didn't have any issues holding on to it, which I gotta say was bizarre because this is one of those where you got the ball back and it was like, oh my gosh, wait a second, are they going to be able to go down the store? We've seen this happen. We've seen this movie, TV show, whatever you want to say, so many times where we gave OU the ball. They have plenty of time on the clock. All they have to do is just go down and kick a field goal. That's all they have to do to tie the game, send overtime. And very proud of the team, but we didn't go the other way before. I'm just I was excited as with just overcome with emotion the second that it was like, all right, nope, we're gonna get the ball back and be able to kneel it. Like just what a breath of relief that feeling was to not having to go basically like the Caleb Williams year in 2021 where we're going down all the way down to the final seconds and he's throwing the ball in the end zone still. And then he gets sacked the final last play of the game.
Can we talk about how funny it is that they were, one, able to get the goalpost down, and then two, because of the way that Boone Pickens Stadium is built, like there's no real easy way to get that goalpost out of the stadium. Like it's so enclosed. I still don't know how they got it out of the stadium.
I would love to like get the actual answer, but I'm out of the. It just had to be out of the. Like they didn't take it out of the west end zone, like up and over. They had to get out of the east end zone, or at least. Yeah, I don't know how they've done it. I mean, I know like driving Pete's Gator down to the east end zone, like field level, but not on. You can barely get the Gator down like that maneuver around. So how did they get the? Like they clearly like someone had to be standing on top of the east end zone. And then they pass it up or something because there's just no other way. I would love to know. Apparently, the east end zone, that field goal, had a crazy night because apparently it went through Wendy's drive-through. It also made it into Theta Pond in the night. Like, everyone was having a great time. I mean, we beat OU. I can't blame them.
It
like,
really,
I'm right there with
them. The atmosphere in Stillwater that night was. I was kind of surprised I didn't see any like videos of people like burning stuff, because I remember after Punt It Again, Bob, when Tyreek won it in Norman, people like drove back. I drove back from Norman and like people were burning stuff out of like Kurt Drummond, like out their windows and stuff. It was wild. I didn't see any of that, but the goalpost definitely made its rounds down the strip and Wendy's and into Theta Pond.
Like how they let like the goalpost didn't. It's not like we got the whole goalpost. I guess the best way to say it. Like there was a goalpost stump. Like it was broke. Like the metal was broken in half. I don't know of a time that happened before where it hasn't. The goalpost like isn't it a single school now has it where you can just hit like a button, it releases the goalpost, and all of a sudden like it just dropped at least down to the. It's not. You couldn't have like somebody breaking it off basically, and you clear some liability, granted not a lot, but I don't know what they did. And I also don't think, even if we have the system in place, I think people are rushing the field so quickly because we were able to kneel it that you couldn't have hit that button with the liability stuff intact, with making sure before it would have hit the ground too. I don't know how that works, but I'm very fascinated to know, like, could we have gotten another goalpost up? Like if we had a game this weekend, I'm sure we could have. I'm sure we could have gotten one to the practice facility or whatever. But like, and maybe every single school really does have like 3, in the back room or whatever it is. But if OSU does, I don't recall seeing it in Boone Pickens Stadium. It must be the practice field ones because I don't know where we were housing it. Maybe at Gundy's house or something. I'm not sure. The Gundy estate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is kind of just funny thinking about just kind of what all transpired because it was like an earlier game. I mean, it was the middle slate of games, and like you might not get the reaction you do if it's an 11 a.m. kickoff. If it's a like late game, like who knows what's going on. I think it was just kind of a perfect storm for Oklahoma State, just kind of with everything in town and. That game, it's worth a rewatch or 3 for sure. And I'm sure it'll be rewatched a lot considering it was the last Bedlam game.
Yeah, it won't be rewatched by the people who don't want to see it anymore. But I got to say, the vitriol OU fans have had on social going after the refs, putting their out there, and the hate, saying some just outlandish things I don't even want to get into, proves to me that this is a rivalry of some type. Like, it may not be a rivalry like in record, but this is definitely a rivalry in some form and fashion. This, hey, this oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Oh, this is when like the Chargers play the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs normally win, but it's always a close game. But then again, Dodgers Padres or something where it's like it's a rivalry, but it's only because like the fan bases are so close to each other that they just interact so much. And then basically like whoever is winning in the moment gets a little bit of bandwagon action. But granted, if one team gets it a lot more than the other, if the other team's, if that team's winning because of the historical success. But without a doubt in my mind, like this would be one of those games that I think about for a while. I do rewatch for a very long time, and I go, wow, cannot believe like we pulled this one off after the start of the season. Just did not look like it was possible or any type in the cards here for us.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. It's one that like you'll look back and remember like, wait, didn't this team lose like 2 of their first 4 games? Like to someone weird. And it'll be like with the friend, you're trying to remember who South Alabama is. Like, what was that team that the Pokes lost to? And you're like, there's no way. Like, it was that like South Alabama in the same year that they beat OU in the final Bedlam. It just did like the whole season does not make sense.
Not at all. I also think it'll be one of those years where we're all just kind of tongue in cheek and we go, oh yeah, that was the year we lost to USA. Like we won't even say South Alabama. USA sounds so much better, than saying like, oh yeah, we lost to like a team that basically is by the Gulf Shores. Like that, doesn't sound the greatest. South Alabama didn't have a college football team in 2009, and that's when Gunny started coaching in 2005. Like there's some stuff that we can just kind of omit from the mental repertoire after knowing a lot about that team and being like, what did we just do? We just lost to this team. And now I think we can look at it the other way. We're like, oh, there's somebody. I mean, they'll make themselves known at some point. Well, hey, to go ahead and end this one out, I just want to ask you, what are your thoughts on UCF this weekend? Do you want to give a score prediction? Because I think we're both going to give winning predictions here, but do we want to give a score prediction for UCF?
Yeah, so I think the line is interesting. So they're favored by 2.5 over the Knights of UCF. And it's interesting. So the way like kind of they create it is like home field advantage is usually worth like 2 to 3 points. So pretty much Vegas is saying like if this was played in Stillwater, it'd be like Pokes by like 7 to 8 points, which kind of makes sense. I mean, I want to believe that this team is just like they easily can beat one of the worst teams in the conference. Like they should, even on the road, they should easily win. And so I think they probably win like something like 34-17. Like I think they handle their business. And it might be a little bit of slower start, just coming off kind of an emotional win. Now you go on the road. Like there's a chance that they give up the first score. Maybe they're trailing at the end of the first quarter or something. But I think kind of this team has figured it out. And I think they will take care of their business. Unfortunately, I was really hoping it would be a night game because I am only like 2 hours away right now in Tampa. And so I could just make the drive to Orlando if it was a night game. But because it's a day game, I have to work and I just can't go. It's real unfortunate.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer for sure. We could have had the correspondent, on site, but you know what? We'll work on it for the future here. The thing that sticks out to me is that UCF is comfortable playing close games. They lost to OU by 2. They lost to K-State by less than 2 touchdowns, 13. They lost to Baylor by 1. They lost to West Virginia by 12. By 13, excuse me. They beat Cincinnati by 2. Like all of this just screams to me, if this is a close one, like we could be in trouble. Like it's not at home. It's a tough game. OU won by 2 and it was at their place. So this is all kind of, I still think we'll win. I still think we'll win pretty big, but I'm thinking like 31 to 17 or something. Like I like the 17 for UCF just because they don't score like a ton of points in games. They really don't get over that 28 mark at all, besides just non-conference when they beat Villanova 48-14 or Kent State 56-6. But like they did beat Boise State, who's not horrible by 2. And I just want to bring up the idea, like, this one may not be the easiest. It's not going to be as easy as Cincinnati. Cincinnati's horrible. So just kind of keep an eye on, like if the game doesn't start out well, like, all right, maybe gear up. This could be a long one. I mean, this isn't going to be like UCF's not going to just let their guard down. They still have plenty to play for. They're 4-5. They still trying to make a bowl game, I would assume. I mean, why not? So this could be a little interesting. And so far after us, they've got at Texas Tech, and then they host Houston at home. So they could be thinking, hey, upset here, major upset, of course. And of course, we got to go to their place. So it's not great. And also, UCF, they're wearing their space unis. Like, I gotta say, they look kind of sick. So, just the uniform front, we may not be winning it this weekend straight up. We usually do win the uniform front battles no matter what. We definitely have so far this season. But UCF's got, they got the powder blue space unis, which I thought space was black. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know what, like, UCF now all of a sudden they're the Knights, where it's just powder blue. Like, I think they're just choosing colors out of thin air. I can't wait until they're like, all of a sudden they're red next year, or you could have Houston play UCF and call it the Space Bowl, and have a whole deal. Like, why is this not a thing? New rivalry being created right here on the spot on the podcast. But yeah, we gotta have the Space Bowl at some point. But I'm going to say 31-17 against UCF this weekend. I like your 34-17 a lot. So we're not there. I think it's a win. I think it actually is kind of easy, but it's just not as easy as we want it to be.
Yeah,
So,
I think there definitely could be a couple times you're like sweating a little, like, oh, come on, guys, like, figure it out. Gotta get things going.
And knock on wood to the end of time. No injuries. We ended out all right. We're good. So, that's the one thing. Hey, if all of a sudden Bowman has something happen to him, like, I don't trust either of the backups at all. I mean, that's just really a thing.
Yeah.
So, but then again, it's UCF. Like they're not good. They're 4-5. They're 1 in conference. Like, they are not world beaters. They're 1-5 in conference. And that one when they literally just got this past weekend against Cincinnati when they won by 2 in Cincy. But like,
yep.
I'm all right on it. All right, well, as always, the BS man himself, Brian Shrull. Thanks so much for joining here on the latest episode of the CGA Tour Podcast. Please follow at the CGA Tour on Twitter and Instagram for more. And as always, we'll catch you guys again soon.